Hello, 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 hello. This is Truth Be Told. This is Dr. Walter Aka, and I have the honor to have this guest on here. And so let me go ahead and give you a little rundown. So this is Dr. Brandon Mack. He was introduced to me by a good friend of mine that I went to school with. And the way he summed up Dr. Mack was he has taken dentistry and made it into an art form. And I said, wait a minute, what does that mean? And he says, no, you don't understand. You go on his Instagram page, you go on any social media, and you see the work that he does, you're going to be sitting here, you're going to be blown away. And I said, okay. And he knows me. It takes a lot to impress me. It really does, So sure enough, I went on there and I started looking. I said, okay, this man, he's all right. He's good. And then the funny thing is later on, I talked to my wife and she's like, that's the guy that I've been telling you about. He's nice. He's from New York. And I was like, no, this gentleman is from Tampa. And she's like, I'm telling you, he's from New York. So sure enough, he's going to tell us both, but he's all over the place. He's killing it. He has about 15,000 followers on Instagram. So Dr. Mack, please, thank you. Start off with, thank you for coming on, man. I know how busy you are. So thank you so much for coming on.
It's a pleasure. It is a pleasure to be on here and an honor to come on and have a conversation with you and just meet your followers and engage and just be an open book to kind of tell whatever it is that they want to hear. And if I can shed light, even an inkling to just a few people, I think it will be worth the time.
Oh, man. Thank you so much, man. I mean, let's start off with your story. Because again, I was saying this to you before we started recording that you're unapologetically you, meaning that like no matter where you see you got the hat on, you got the chains, you're looking fresh, you know what I mean? Like nothing changes. This is you, but the skill set is incredible, you know what I mean? And so that's something that I want you to talk about, please.
So when you talk about being unapologetically myself, I feel like it really goes back to the beginning of the story. And when you come from extreme humble beginnings, from the trailer park, from, all of these things that we feel like have to define who we are as human beings, it puts you in what I used to call survival mode. And in survival mode, you'll find that it's very advantageous to compartmentalize different parts of your life so that you can create opportunity. And once you get to a point where a $250 speeding ticket is not going to end your life or disrupt you. Okay. You can start to get to this like personal renaissance era where you start to discover who you are as a human being. And external factors are really not that big of a deal. You start to look within. And I feel like I got to a point in my career where I felt like decompartmentalization of my life, where I could be Brandon Mack and Dr. Mack all the same. It would be advantageous to me because there's not enough time in the day. And so you might as well do whatever it is that you want. So if I'm spending 33% of the time in the office, another 15% of that outside of the office, preparing for the office, another 25 sleep, and the rest of it doing whatever it is that I want to do, I might as well do it and be happy. And I find that there's a big fear factor in making that step because you're very nervous about how other people are going to interpret you. But if you make a decision, I used to say commitment is easy once you commit, and there's no more valuable commitment than committing to being who you are unapologetically at all times. And the people and the things that are supposed to gravitate towards you, they will. Okay. And there was another element to that because, like I said, the fear of not being accepted early on was one of the motivations to push me to be the absolute best that I can. And then that fear turned into a passion and I connected to my purpose and it just became something that we did. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to prove anything to anyone. It's like, I really enjoy what I do. And I would rather spend my time doing dentistry and being creative and changing the face of dentistry and how my patients receive it and how some of the other dentists receive themselves and put themselves in positions to be comfortable enough being themselves.
Well, okay, so then you actually answered one of my main questions, which was, are you afraid of people kind of prejudging you before they get to know you, right? Before they get to meet you, they're seeing this guy on Instagram, they're seeing this guy coming up to them with the hat on, with the chain and everything like that, you know what I mean? And to us, I like that. But to others, they may go, oh, man, why would I want to pay this guy this amount of money for him to, he may not be as good as this other guy who may be, in a three-piece suit or whatever it may be. You see what I'm saying? There's always some kind of prejudice in association with image.
I understand. And for me, I think just like in all art, there is beauty in juxtaposition. right? What someone would expect versus what it is, that they present to the world. And for me, I always wanted the body of work to speak for me and precede anyone meeting me. So when I post on social media, it is undeniably 100% dedicated towards putting out the body of work. And there's a splash of who Brandon Mack is. And I feel like when patients get the opportunity to meet me, it is a very pleasant surprise to attach a face with the art. And I really do think they go hand in hand. Unfortunately, I wish that other people had the same type of opportunity to be who they were without having to have the body of work. But it really does help to have the work precede, any kind of meeting of people.
Okay. Well, I mean, so now that you've said that, I want you to break something down for me, right? You didn't get here overnight, right?
Correct.
Let's talk about the grind and the struggles to get to this point where you are literally world renowned. You're everybody knows you. You got thousands of followers on Instagram and so forth. So tell me, like, from beginning, the young Brandon, the guy that went to dental school and then decided I'm going to go to this path versus the going to a corporation or just kind of being any other dentist.
Yeah. So ninth grade was probably one of the most pivotal moments for me. And, going to school was cool, playing sports, being in band, being involved. My parents were, well, my mom was very, very hands-on about giving me whatever opportunity I wanted to make sure that we were kind of insulated from the life that we were truly living. And I remember this group, they came in, it was from a boarding school, Arkansas School for Math and Science. They came and talked to us on campus one day. And they were like, hey, we want to go to this high school and live on campus. And I was like, absolutely, I need to get out of here. And that was the first challenge of being different.
Okay.
And being able to learn how to operate in an area where you are not like anyone else. And then after high school, going from being one of the only Blacks in high school to being, different, going to an HBCU, because I was not like any of the people I went to college with. I was seeing people from Atlanta, from New York, from California, from LA, and I'd never seen anything like that before, being around such a non-monochromatic culture and being exposed to exactly who I was as a person. I thought that was great, but it was still challenges in that and finding myself and finding my way and being different,
Okay.
And then I went to dental school at LSU, and I remember the day that I walked on campus, and it was one.
Yep.
And I remember seeing Emmanuel, and he was a class ahead of me, and he was the only guy, the only Black, the only African-American in the school. And then I came in, and it was a very interesting experience. I made incredible friends, and I learned to use that to my advantage of being different and being able to learn from other people, but also be a beacon to shed light on, hey, everybody is not the same, and you should be judged based on, your character and your work ethic and stuff like that. But dental school was no like walk in the park. It wasn't like a sneeze for me.
Right. And so then after dental school, what transitioned you to what made you go to Florida? And then you said what?
That's the irony. You said you worked a year for Aspen. It brought me to Florida. I remember they came to school, and I thought it was super cool that they had offices all over the place. And I had been in New Orleans for like a decade, and it was time for a change. And I really had my heart set on going to DC at the time. I really wanted to be in the DMV area. That's where I thought I wanted to practice.
Yeah.
And I guess the regional manager was like, hey, what do you think about Florida? And I was like, nothing. I know nothing. I've never been. I barely even heard of Tampa.
Right.
And I went down for an interview. They flew me down. I met Dr. Dickerson, who was the guy who owned all the Aspens. And I was like, this is my guy. Like, he had the charisma, he had the personality. And I was like, I want to learn under this dude. Eventually, that didn't work out, but I learned a lot about how he ran his business and how he was really a leader in getting his team to run their head through a wall. And that was my biggest take. But it just wasn't a good fit for what I wanted to do long term. But at the time, I enjoyed surgery. I absolutely love dentures and removable. I feel like that is the key to understanding aesthetics, because every case is a full mouth. Every case is macro aesthetics, right? And removable.
It is.
And then when you combine implants with that, the surgical aspect, you really get an opportunity to understand the concept of painting the end result and being able to work in reverse in order to build up to that. So That's really how I got down to Florida, is through Aspen and just kind of finding my way and really taking time to explore all the different aspects of dentistry until I found my connection.
Man, you just opened up a lot of questions for me. Ready? One,
Sure.
I love the fact that you said that you use something like Aspen, even though that was not your end goal. You use something like Aspen to learn leadership, to learn how to run a business. A lot of people think that just because they're at one position, that's where they're going to be. Or they feel like, oh, this is not for me. Let me get out of here and let me not get something out of it. And you did, it seems like, right? And then you also mentioned something that a lot of people hate, which are dentures. But you said dentures are literally what's going to make or break aesthetics, right? You learn so much from dentures. So can you break that down and show us and explain to us like how dentures?
Absolutely. Everything in aesthetics boils down to removable dentures. When you're talking about lip position, when you're talking about the incisal edge position as it relates to the position of the lip and how the lips fit into the face, how the face ages, how it changes over time. We lose tonicity in our muscles. The lip starts to sag. The upper jaw starts to go up and back. And you utilize dentures to restore lip support, build out the buccal corridors, establish new incisal edge position based on what age the person's at. Do we want a mature smile? Do we want something that looks a little bit more natural? Understanding how important the canine eminence is to supporting this part of the face. You also get a lot of experience with, occlusion when you're doing dentures, and understanding having occlusal stability is going to help with those dentures functioning over time without resorbing the ridges. There's just so much to unpack when it comes to removable, but that is the crash course in macro aesthetics, because everything is related to the face and how the face functions with the lip and the jaws and the muscles that move the teeth. I think that using that as a jump start and then getting into being able to use photography to understand what it is that you're doing. Can you see? More important than moving these is being able to use this and understand what these are supposed to be looking for. And I think that is what separates the greats from the people who are really good. Most people focus on being a technician. How was the prep design? Very important. How is the margin? How is the seat? What burr do I use? But they're asking the wrong questions. And do you have the ability to see and understand what you're trying to accomplish? Then you utilize the tools in front of you to get there. And I think that's the biggest disconnect for a lot of people that are trying to get into the aesthetic game, is they really should put a lot of their focus on being able to see.
Okay, well, wow. Okay, so when you say see, are you talking about being able to see the end result, or are you talking about being able to see the different layers of what you're doing? Like you said, the prep, the layers of, porcelain, what do you break that down for me? Because you said see multiple times in that.
Give me all the skills that I have today and put me in 2016. I know what burrs to use. I know how to prep. Give me a plethora of the best ceramists in the world. And without the knowledge of being able to see case after case and understanding what to look for and how to see a case aesthetically, functionally, biologically, and respecting the longevity of a case, it's really difficult to execute on the vision. And so when it comes to being able to see, is like, do you know that, the buccal corridors need to be filled in? Do you see that the incisal edge position is proper, but the lip position is not in the proper position for the face? The philtrum is too long. Maybe the patient needs to go to plastic surgery and consider a lip lift surgery. What if you have a dolichofacial patient with a long philtrum and they have very short incisal edge display? Now you make them have longer teeth. Can you see that you just made them look like a hoop? Those are the things that I really think are important to really turning the page, is really being able to understand what you're looking for and knowing how to see it.
Okay. So let me ask you this, right? Some people will say, oh, you need the right burr block. You need all. So you're telling me that it doesn't matter what burr block you have. If you don't have the knowledge, it's pretty much, you can have all the best tools in the world without the knowledge on how to use it, right? you wouldn't get the same, you wouldn't get the Michelangelo, you wouldn't get the, you know, the Mona Lisa, whatever it may be. I'm using that as background because you're very artistic.
Tell you what, I'm gonna throw the question back at you. You have a Ferrari 458, and I'm in a Ford Focus. I know that we're both leaving Miami and driving to Atlanta, but you don't know where the destination is. Who's gonna win? You in the Ferrari or me in the Ford Focus?
Doesn't matter how fast I can go. You're right. If I don't know where I'm going, it's pretty useless. You're gonna get there.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
And so, you know, it's really about how to leverage the tools, because you can use any tool to do the job.
Okay.
It's a matter of, you know, being able to leverage them and knowing where you're going with it.
Okay. So how important is a ceramist when it comes to what you do?
Early on in my career, I spent so much time in my in-house lab, and I was working in an office in Central Florida, and the lady was making all of the dentures. I spent every single day of my career listening to 2 hours of podcasts each way driving to work. And after work, I would hang out with, you know, the lab tech. And I spent quite a bit of time there. And every ceramist that I've ever worked with, I wanted to go to the lab. I wanted to meet them. I wanted to pick their brain to understand what it is that I need to give to them in order to accomplish the result. And I feel like early in a practitioner's career, the ceramist can be very critical at getting them to what I call clinically acceptable. There is a critical point in dentistry where if it's straight and white, it's good enough for the patients, and anything beyond that is all about, you know, nuance, and you're in a whole different bracket. But it doesn't take much to please the patient. If it's straight white and the margins are sound, the occlusion is protected, you're good. Mm-hmm. But when you want to get to the next level, I think there's a certain level that you have to be at in order to get the maximum out of the ceramics that you use. And so I also think it's important to understand why you use each ceramist. And so I'll give you an example. One of the reasons why, for my particular workflow, why I use the ceramics that I do, the conversations with the patients can be very challenging. And so your ability to communicate with them is going to boil down to the temporaries, right? This is almost like a contract that I have with the patient. And when the patient and I have decided, hey, I like the way that these temporaries look in my face, they function properly, I like the way that they fit. Now that's your ability to communicate with the ceramist. So if you have a ceramist that understands that workflow, you want somebody who is going to be the absolute best at copying temporaries and bringing it to life.
Okay.
If you're not that great at temporaries, that's not a big deal breaker, because now you want a ceramist that's going to be more artistically expressive, which I've also worked with them, and they want to take the case and they want to take over and put their artistic expression on the case. For some people who are control freaks, that doesn't work out. It's not a good relationship. But at the end of the day, the most powerful relationship in dentistry is going to be between the creative team, the dentists, the designers, the ceramists, and it's all about respect. You have to know what heel to die on. Sometimes that's not your battle on that single tooth case. You have to watch how you talk to the ceramist, because these are human beings. You're a human being. Right. Are you open to feedback and constructive criticism in the way that you feel like you should be able to criticize a ceramist? Do you have that type of relationship in the bond? So I think that it's probably one of the most critical relationships, but early on, until you get to a certain level, you're probably not going to get the maximum out. Let's just say you got the best ceramist in the world. Can you get the maximum out of that if you are prepping 2 millimeters facial on a central and you want something to look natural? Probably. Right. You know, is it going to benefit you to use a ceramist that can make a 0.1 millimeter thin veneer if, you know, it's going to crack? And I'm talking from experience. Right. All of this is coming from my personal experience of failures and challenges that I've had. You know, I've been fired from a lab before. Okay. You know, okay. Meaning you're too much. It's too much. You're done. Okay. Well, hold on. Let me pause. This is the tooth be told, right? No, it really is. Yes, I've been fired from a lab, and guess what? We're still friends, and we have a positive relationship. It just wasn't a good fit for them.
So what made it to the point where like they said, hey, you know what, you're too much? Like, what were you asking them? And do you think that you were asking them to be too much, or do you think that it just was not a fit because you have a standard, a level that they just couldn't meet?
No, absolutely. Immaturity and audacity and not understanding. You don't know what you don't know. And until you're on a certain level and you're actually the man in the arena doing the work over and over, it's hard for you to see. It's hard for you to understand what it is. And so early on in my career, you have these lofty goals and ambitions about what you want to accomplish. But without those challenges, I would never be where I am today. But sometimes you just don't know. And some people were trying to kindly tell you, hey, you're not at the level of dentistry of what it is that you're asking us to accomplish for you. I'm sorry.
Okay. And so what made you finally realize that that's what they were trying, the message they were trying to get to you? Because you clearly did, and you realized, hey, that was not them, that was me.
Well, today on this podcast, because that was years ago, right?
Right.
But
I mean, to have somebody to look in the mirror, I think is the hardest thing for dentists to do. To literally look in the mirror and say, you know what do I need to do better? Right? Looking at your cases and critically analyzing your cases. So please break that down, because I can guarantee you've done thousands of hours of critical analytics of your cases. So break that down and help these young doctors kind of get to that level.
So the first thing that I'm going to tell the young doctors to get to that level is give yourself 72 hours of an endorphin burst for every case that you do. Analyze it and move on. If you start to look back on those old cases, if you are truly following the principles that every great guru is telling you 1% better every day, of course, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, I could have done this, this, and this better. Right. And so what I do still to this day is once I insert a case, I look at it, I look at the preps, I look at the design, I look at the temporaries, and I give my ceramist feedback on site, good and what can be improved immediately. We're having conversations. I love to get the trumpets and pom-poms out for my guy when they crush it. It's like, dude, you are a master. Look at this. Look at the temps versus finals. This is crazy. And so I feel like being able to look back on your own work and evaluate and understand what you're looking for. Number one, having a mentor who can help walk you through that is going to expedite the process. So I look at myself like Curry would look at himself, or Michael Jordan or LeBron. It's like, if you want to be the best in the world, which I absolutely do, I'll just say it on the podcast, I want to be the best. If you want to be the best, you have to have a coach that's willing to take you under their wing to get the best out of you. And so every week or, every month, I'm going over these cases with my mentor. I'm showing them, this is what I'm planning to do. Here's my design. This is my thought process. And my mentor, he challenges me, say, hey, did you think about doing it like this? Or, hey, look at the line angles on your centrals, on the distals. The contact point should be right here in the middle and size of 1/3. This is too triangular. Or look at the necks on the laterals. But it really gets to the point where the more critical you can be on your work without being judgmental, the better the work's going to get. And I feel like that is a very important balance that people should realize. You can't be too critical in this game, because that can be the one thing that's going to lead to burnout and really end your career faster than you can get started. Because if everything that you do is contingent upon you thinking it's great or the patient thinking it's great, then you're forever going to be a prisoner to that praise or those accolades. And you really have to remove yourself from that and just live with the fact that I know that I am putting in 100% on every case.
Okay, man, you said a lot. You literally speak like your Instagram. Very, very inspirational.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Let me dive into the specifics. Please. Okay.
Yeah.
I just did a case. Okay. Lady comes in, she has 4 composite veneers on her teeth. And she comes to me and she says, hey, what should I do? And all I see is the inflammation. I see the gum going back. And the first thing that I do is I want to sit down and understand, what are you trying to accomplish? Who are you? And what is the story you're trying to paint here? Because the biggest challenge in dentistry is that we tend to under treatment plan for the sake of being conservative. But what if we looked at it like, how about we just conservatively approach accomplishing the goal? That makes
Stop right
sense?
there. Stop right there. Break that down a little more. I
Okay.
think people miss what you just said. Break that down a little more, because that was actually that was deep. Break that down a little more.
There's a buzz line on the internet that's going around right now, and I think, and I believe in this too. It's called responsible aesthetics.
Mm.
Well, what does that really mean, right? Does that mean I'm only going to do edge bonding on 8 and 9 and do veneers on 6 teeth? Or do we have a responsibility to understand what the patient is trying to accomplish and look at this person through our personal treatment philosophy and help guide them to achieving their goals in the most conservative manner? That's different from responsible aesthetics, right? We are responsible for helping navigate these different patient pathways.
And do we consider finances in there? Because that's one thing that a lot of dentists talk about, right? Do we consider finance if we're going to consider our aesthetic, ideals or what we want to get accomplished for the patient? Do we consider finance in there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is what I tell the dentists that come to my office, and this is tooth talk. Look, when you first start out, you got to pay the bills, period. And so you're focused on being a technician first and foremost. And so a lot of times, until you know better, we tend to be tooth focused or problem, benefit, consequence, solution focused, right? Fear based. And so a patient comes in with a missing tooth. And so we say, oh, if you don't take care of this missing tooth, this tooth is going to shift, and then you're not going to be able to eat. Here are the benefits of replacing the tooth. And by the way, here are 2 solutions, bridge or implant.
You're right.
Well, what if we started looking at those that approach differently, right? You don't have to sell hope. And there's 2 other things that I'm not going to say on this podcast, but you don't have to sell hope. And so if you can have a product and experience so powerful that it draws people to want it, like hope, you don't have to sell it. And it doesn't have to be fear-based. And so now the conversation is different when it comes to cost, because you are putting the cost of a nice luxury car in your mouth. Everybody thinks that they can't do this type of dentistry, but I mean, there's a Mercedes-Benz and everywhere, right? They got dealerships everywhere. They got Neiman Marcus everywhere.
Okay, so what you just said right there, I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna question a little bit. So when you have a Porsche, when you have a Ferrari, it's most of them Teslas, they don't really advertise that much, because the name speaks for itself, right?
Correct.
Word of mouth. Okay.
Correct.
You're at a level where word of mouth speaks for you. You probably don't even have to do much, and people are coming to you. There are a lot of dentists that don't have that level.
Can I stop you right there? You want to know what the marketing is?
Yeah, please.
I treat every case like it's the last one I'm going to do. And I decided a long time ago that I was going to have the stomach to miss a bunch of base knocks. And so if you want to be Mark McGuire and Barry Bonds, you got to live with the fact that your batting percentage is not going to be that great, but every time you hit it, you're knocking it out of the park. And so I know that the body of work is the most important component of the next case coming in. It's concentric circles with rings. If I take care of you, I treat you like a human, I go to the next level, you might not get a thank you. You might not get a pat on the back. But I guarantee when they walk out, that's negative cost marketing. They are paying you to market your business because they are wearing it for the rest of their life when they go outside and they smile and they have confidence, or the lifestyle is radiating what it is that they're on. And then people want to be associated with that. And now they want to come in and do a consultation. That's the key. Every single case is you give your best effort. I treat it like it's the last one that I'm ever going to do. I literally do that. And that's the marketing, and word of mouth is everything. And so never once on my Instagram, actually, I'll take that back, but you guys have to fact check me here. Never once have we said schedule a consultation or
call this number. Yeah.
$150 consult.
Right.
Hit my DM, because what I'm doing is I'm just sharing what we do and being passionate about it because we actually like it.
So let me ask, man. Okay, let me ask you another question. Ready? So with you, it sounds like you're saying, listen, the money will come, but all the other stuff needs to be right.
No, the money won't come. You still got to run a business
Right. Okay.
because you can't charge $1,000 for a veneer and think you're going to use a $1,200 a unit ceramics.
Okay.
The economics don't make sense. You might need to stick to Glidewell. You might need to stick to a mid-tier lab because you know that they're going to deliver a quality product.
Okay.
Like, just because there is Neiman Marcus doesn't mean everybody has to be Neiman's. Walmart and Whole Foods and Target, they all have their target market. And if you are a business person and not an artist, you need to understand that the economics of aesthetics, you know, like the person that's doing the most cases is also charging the most and doing at the highest level. What that tells me is there's room at the very top. But do you have the cachet of patience? Do you have the clientele that can come in and drop $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a tooth? Don't matter how good the teeth look. It doesn't matter how good the work is. Do you have the clientele? And so it's all about, you know, deciding what it is that you are doing, being the brand. And I think there is a space for everybody who wants to get into the cosmetic game. And I think one of the biggest voids that is deficient right now is affordable, dependable, quality aesthetics.
Affordable, dependable, quality aesthetics. Now, I feel like saying affordable and cosmetics is almost an oxymoron. Let me know how that's not.
You mean it sounds like a horse with stripes and not a zebra, right?
Yeah.
But
Do you see what I'm saying?
I think what's missing in the game is that, I don't know if you're aware of this. Did you know that people are going to folks' houses and getting composite veneers put on and porcelain by nail techs and lash techs?
I did not know that.
Happening in Houston, or is it just Florida?
I did not know that. I did not know that. And if that's the case, and you know somebody, let them come on the show. I would love to talk to them.
Oh, come on, man. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. But you know
I need
what?
to look into that.
I'm not necessarily in that lane, but I notice it, right? People
Yeah.
are doing anything to make them have an enhanced smile. And so what that tells me is the market is missing something, right? At a certain price point, there needs to be access to a certain level of clinically acceptable dentistry that can be performed to give people the same feeling. Just like the keychains at Louis Vuitton, everybody's not rocking runway pieces.
Okay.
You know, everybody is not rocking the handbags. There's also small leather goods, and I think there needs to be access for that.
What do you tell young dentists who want to be you, who look at you and look at the full mouth rehabs that you're doing, right? Coming out of dental school and want to be, that's what I want to do, right? And I can guarantee you, and I hopefully you agree with me on this, but not everybody can be at the top. Not everybody is a McGuire. Not everybody is a Barry Bonds. Right. So the question I have for you is, what do you tell these young guys? Like, is this something that's natural, meaning that this was your natural God-given gift, or is this something that you had to learn? And can you learn to get to that, to do aesthetic dentistry to that level?
My natural gift was people, understanding people and really engaging in others.
Okay.
Helping. The work there's a lot of practice that came with it. You know how long it took me. Okay, let me just give you, I'm going to give you two things and then I'm going to get to that. Do you know why I spend so much time, not now, but why I got so good at making temporaries? I was using a designer who was my friend. I had his mom in the office today, as a matter of fact, when we're going to end up doing her teeth. But I was working with this designer. And he was designing my cases for me. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to design for you anymore. I said, So I had to learn how to mock these cases up in the mouth with flowable composite and do a direct mock-up, because that's the only option that I had. The cases couldn't slow down. I had to be able to do it. And so that's what it took, like over and over and over. And every chance that I got, I practiced. Every single patient that I could do a direct mock-up on, I did a direct mock-up. Anytime that I could alter temporaries or take the temps to the next level, it became an obsession. But when you ask me what would I tell people who want to be me, I don't think that they have the same story, and I don't think that they have the same why or the same purpose. I would ask them, dig deep within yourself and ask, who are you and what is your purpose? And connect to that, because they might not have the same stomach. They don't know what the life looks like outside of this and the stresses that come with this. Early on in my career, I had a nickname for every vacation I ever took, because there was a patient calling about, a temporary off or, something like that. It's like, do you really understand what you're getting into? Like, do you really want that life? Do you want to really commit to it? Because it's not just 9 to 5. This is outside time. When I go to work at, 8, and we start at 10 and you work to 6:30 at night, and then you come home, now you have a mentorship session from 6:30 to 7:30, and then you have to write lab scripts from 7:30 to whenever. Is that the life that they want?
Okay, well, here's a question for you. The mentorship, can you expand on that and tell me, did you pay for that?
Yeah.
Did you find
absolutely.
that person? You paid for it?
Absolutely.
Okay, why did you pay for that?
Same reason why I'm investing in me. Every dime I want to invest in me and my business. And in order to become the best, you have to invest in continuous learning. And so I found a guy through my lab. They aligned me. His name is Dr. Jay Lerner. I looked up to him. I admired his body of work, and it was a lot of respect that I had on his name. And I was like, I would love to connect with this guy and put in the work. And he is a straight shooter. I like the way our personalities complement each other, because he tells it like it is, and he holds me accountable. When he says it's at 7 o'clock, doesn't matter if the traffic is there. Doesn't matter if you're finishing up late. It's like, okay, it's 7 o'clock. You scheduled this appointment. I expect you to be here. And it's that type of accountability that I can appreciate, and the type of relationship that we've been able to develop over time, that I think it's worth investing the money into mentorship. You pay for what it is that you get. If I have a question, I can lean on him to ask him about business or the dentistry, but mainly the dentistry.
Okay. What so
and it's thousands of dollars.
There it is. I personally think that a lot of dentists want stuff for free, and that's okay. There's a lot of good information out there for free. But yeah. I do believe what you just said, right? In order to really get to that next level, it takes a little bit of extra income, money, whatever it may be, to get to that. If that's not courses, if that's not mentorships, it's something along that line. And I'm so glad that you actually were very honest and said it like that, because a lot of people act like, oh, no, just meet somebody. And then you always have to realize that you have to either you put value in that person or you pay.
Yes.
2 options, right?
And I think it's a combination of both. Social media has made the world incredible.
Okay.
Because once you tap into one person, now you get introduced to an entire circle of people who are like-minded and who are on a similar path, and you can look to them to understand how they navigated their challenges, their successes. And if those people are open to talking to you, I think it can be a great resource. And I was lucky enough to tap into a network of dentists early on. I remember seeing this guy who was doing When the Pictures Really Matter back in, I think it was 2014, 2015.
Okay.
On Instagram. And I was like, how is this dude taking these photos like this? I didn't even know dentistry was being done at that level. And then I saw the South Americans and the Brazilians, and then I saw Apple was in Dubai. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And so it was so motivational that I had to get next to him. I had to find out. I was like, yo, what are they doing? How do you do this? And you have to have a certain foundation laid before those courses become beneficial. But it just takes time, and you can't really cheat the time. Like, I've been doing dentistry since 2014, 2015, and that's almost 10 years in it. And I don't know, it seems like just yesterday since I got started,
Yeah. Well, let me ask you one more question. Who do you think was your biggest, almost like a breakthrough, like celebrity? Because I saw like Chad Ochocinco, you had worked on him. and I don't want to name drop, but like, who do you think kind of got you saying, okay, I can do this. This is it right here. I got that star and they love it and people are talking about it and so forth. So what got you, like, who do you think got you to that point now where you're basically a celebrity dentist? I'll put it out there. I'll say it. You're a celebrity dentist. So what got you? Who was that person?
I feel like we've not had a breakthrough, and I just don't really believe in breakthrough anymore.
Okay.
Like, there's not a moment that's gonna come that's gonna get me to the next level. It's really just a continuous grind of being in it and doing it daily. Every single day I wake up, it's like the daily grind. And you know, my partner, my best friend, he tells me, it's like, bro, there's not gonna be an aha moment. You're not gonna have a patient that's gonna walk through. I mean, unless Leo Messi decides to come and take me to Pluto.
If Leo comes in, I'm flying.
It's over with. It's out of there. But I really feel like life has prepared me for this moment. Okay. Let's say a case comes in and I need to execute the case in 3 days. We're in a position with a workflow where that can happen. Okay. If they're ready to go.
Right.
Can I guarantee the product? Can I depend on my team? Do I have a good workflow? How is the shipping? Everything that has got us to this point is leading us up to the next level. But if I had to put it on a single patient when I was like, yeah, I can do this, probably Cheeks. He's this guy who's a friend of mine. He's local here in Tampa. But when I did his case, everybody knew him, and it was like, blew up. They wanted that.
Okay. Before we go, and I thank you again for taking the time. I know how busy you are, so really appreciate you. You know what I mean? Can you give any advice to anybody, you know, that wants to pursue what you've done? Like, what advice would you give them? And then on top of that, before we get out of here, I want you to basically give us any of your, you know, social medias or whatever, so that people can reach out to you, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. The number one thing that I'm going to tell the young dentists, and even the dentists who are looking to take their career to a different place later on in their journey, it's going to start with a strong sense of self-belief. And it takes a while until you're actually able to, and this is my personal opinion, believe in yourself. But you're going to know that moment when you actually believe the things that you say.
Okay.
I feel like it's the woo-woo, but this is the absolute most important piece, is really believing in yourself. And that concept of commitment is easy once you commit. And what I mean by that is, if this is the journey that you want to take and you've committed to it, you know what it looks like. You decided your why and you decided your purpose. That means you know the decisions that need to be made. It doesn't mean they're going to be easy, but they become more obvious once you know your purpose and your why, and you've decided that this is the path that I'm on and I'm committed to it.
All right. Please give us, and if you don't mind, any of your social media, so that people can actually follow you, can get a hold of you, if you don't mind. I mean, because you reached back out to me, which I appreciate so much, because it just shows how personable you are. So if you don't mind, like, if you can give out any emails or whatever that so people can get a hold of you.
Good thing. My social media is at Dr. Brandon Mack, DrBrandonMack. Feel free to shoot me at Instagram. I'll follow you guys back and check your stuff out. And whenever I'm free, I would love to engage. And sometimes there's flashes of when I'm able to respond back. But a lot of the time we're like, you know, knee deep in cases and communicating with patients. But I love to engage with people who are aspiring to take this road. I feel like there's opportunity in this field for everybody to be very successful. And it's really up to us as an industry to continue to support one another, have each other's back, provide support, open up our hearts and our minds to give the knowledge back to people who are coming into the game, because that really is our duty, is to give the game what it's given to us in, you know, tenfold.
I'm going to stop it right there, man. Mic drop. Appreciate you so much for everything. I really, really appreciate you. I mean, just
thanks for having me.
No, man, I appreciate you. Thank you so much, man.